competitions and coffee. For me, these things have always been interlinked. When I started in coffee over 10 years ago, I started as a barista for a company that had multiple shops. And within 3 months of my first shift, I barely knew what an espresso machine was. I was competing in their internal in-house coffee competition. And it was so scary. But over the years, I learned to love competition. Who here loves competition? Exactly. It's an amazing thing, isn't it? The adrenaline you have, the learning curve beforehand, the networking opportunities, and also the relief and party afterwards that you're done. And as a judge as well, it's so great to see people go through the same journey that you went through. The first time that I saw the World Barista Championship was in Vienna, and I had just finished my minor in gender studies. And I thought, what an amazing competition. How often do you see these competitions that are an equal opportunity for both men and women to compete against each other on an international stage? It's not that often. And I was so inspired by everyone and everything that I saw there. However, I did notice one thing, that despite of the equal opportunity to compete, not a lot of women did. So why is this important? The World Barista Championship, or the WBC, is a pinnacle of professional achievement in our industry. It's where new ideas are launched and where finalists get a voice and opportunities they didn't have before. And I work in this industry, and so do all of you. And we need the barista as a voice between origin, big companies, roasters, and the consumer. And we need a representative voice here. Despite of that fact, we've only had men win the World Barista Championship. Since the beginning in 2000, there hasn't been a single female world champion. Why not? Let's look at some data. Since the beginning, participation of women in this competition has been quite low. It's never been over 25%, and on average it's 17%. It seems quite low, doesn't it? Who here has been to a coffee house in the last couple of months? Right? Everybody. We work in coffee. Who has been served by a female barista during one of these visits? So they exist. They're out there, but we don't see them as much on this stage. Nonetheless, even with such a low participation, statistically speaking, 1 in 6 competitions should be won by a woman. And they're not. And this disconnect intrigued me, and I wanted to find answers and see why this was happening. And that's why I'm here today, to show you and share with you the information that I could find that could be possible reasons. Now, the first thing I found was a huge lack of data. The World Coffee Events doesn't require national bodies to keep information on ranking and participation, and so a lot of national bodies don't. But based on the information that you can find, we see that participation overall on a national level is also quite low. And the number of wins is also quite low. If you look at how many times national bodies have sent women to represent them in a period of 15 years, 75% of countries have sent women to represent them 0 to 3 times. 25% have sent more than 3 times to a woman to the international competition. And often these are the same women. They compete multiple times. So why are women not competing? I decided to ask a few very experienced international judges into why they think women aren't winning. And their answer was quite simply put, support. But let's first start on the social research. There's been a lot of social research into why women don't compete. And one of the best-known researches was done by Buser and Niederle. And they found that women are 25% less likely to compete than men. And the reasons were confidence and fear. But even when controlling for these two, they saw that women were still 12% less likely to compete than men. Basically, they just were choosing not to compete. And not only that, but they also found that when women were competing mostly against men, they also decided to opt out. Plus, when adding time constraints or pressure, which are both such a big part of the barista competition, women also more often decided to not compete. But confidence and fear aren't the only reasons for women not to compete. When you walk into a bar and you ask a female barista, so, why are you not competing this year? Many of them mention time. They don't have time. So why don't they have time? One possible reason could be that they are spending this time elsewhere. 2014 research by OECD into paid work, unpaid work, and leisure and time spent on that shows that, and that's what you see in this pie chart, it's hours spent on unpaid work. 72% of those hours are taken by women. Men spend more time on hobbies and leisure, and women spend more time on cleaning the house, leaving less time for competition. But deciding to compete or not to compete is cultural. It differs per country. It differs per region. So we're going to leave this here for now. Because what's more important is that there are women competing, but they don't seem to be winning, or at least not as much. So as I said, I asked some international judges why. Why are they not winning? They are participating. And they, again, said support. They said if you go backstage and you look at the women competing, they don't have a team with them. They come alone. Or if they have a team, it's friends and family, and not coffee professionals. And I wondered if this was true. So I threw out a Google survey, and I got over 230 responses. And although a Google survey is not up to scientific standards, although you should never underestimate the power of Google, it does shed some light into this issue. I asked respondents who their team consisted of. And 29% of women who responded said, I didn't have a team. I did it all alone. 20% said my team consisted mostly of friends and family. And 42% said, no, I had a team of coffee professionals. For men, 15% said, I did it alone. And 59% of men said, I had a team of coffee professionals. I also asked them, so who helped you on competition day? Because this is the day, D-Day, the day you need to perform and you need to win and show what you can do. And you need people to help you. You need someone to help you carry your gear, clean your cups, create the right taste descriptors for that day. And you need someone to help you de-stress. 42% of women came alone to D-Day, while 58% of men had their entire team there. So is this the reason why women aren't winning? Perhaps. But I also asked for a final ranking. And there doesn't seem to be a correlation between team and final placement. So perhaps women just aren't performing as well. And there's actually some social research to back this up. Research done by Nisi and Günther, who found that a competition element can change your performance. They asked men and women to complete a certain task, and then they asked them to complete this task again, but now they added a price element. And what did they find? That women performed the same, but men increased their performance. They became better. That's odd, right? Women didn't. However, when they said to women, no, you're not competing against men, you're only competing against women, women did increase their performance. Something to think about. They also found that stereotyping is important. When they asked men to do a certain task, men increased their performance more in a task that was seen as a male task, and women increased their performance more when they were doing a female task. So having a female role model is perhaps even more important than we might think. So are women not performing as well as men? They do reach the WBC. They reach the semifinals, they reach the finals. To say that over a period of 15 years, women aren't performing as well as men is quite a statement. Now, we've had a lot of presentations at RICO about perception and taste, and cup color, size, shape, the napkins and table layout, the music we listen to, it can all change the perception of taste. And all of these things are taken into account when you perform at the World Barista Championship. Baristas spend weeks, if not months and years, to find that perfect espresso cup, the best looking napkin, the nicest water glasses. So if we know all this, and we even know that some of these things can change our perception of taste, then perhaps we should accept that who is serving you this drink can also change your perception of taste. Now, presentation is important. And perhaps women should spend more time into looking into their presentation, and perhaps it should be different to that of men. The entertainment industry has known for a long time how important presentation is. Stage performance, persona, body language, identity, it's all part of what they offer. Think about boy bands or girl bands, K-pop. They're all built to be appealing to a certain public. If we think about Taylor Swift or Katy Perry, if these songs that they were singing were sung by the 40-year-old something men that wrote the songs, it would kind of be different. A 42-year-old man singing, "I kissed a girl and I liked it," it just doesn't have the same message, does it? What we like to see from men and women differs. Multiple studies have shown that self-promotion and agentic qualities are risky for women. We like to see women in a more communal and social role. But agentic qualities are important in how the barista competition is set up. As a barista competing, you take the judges with you on a journey, and you show them everything you know. Speaking about judges, and it's a good thing most of them aren't here but calibrating for the Barista Championships this year, is there any reason to think that they are gender bias free? Gender or culture training is not part of judges' training, other than the fact that they are told to be aware that there are differences. So, presentation is important. It's not part of training. And when you talk to judges about this subject, they get uncomfortable, which I understand, because as a judge, you walk into a presentation trying to be as objective as possible, and you want to be open to the barista in front of you and respect all the time that they've put in. You want to be fair. However, as humans, we're not always aware of our perception. If we look at origin and gender inequity in origin, it's very normal to have a gender specialist. Perhaps it should be the same in competitions, because this competition is so important for our community and our industry, and also for an individual's career. Are we free from gender bias? Let me give you a demonstration about bias. What do you see here? Yeah, don't we all agree it's a glass of water? But wait, water isn't blue. When I took a shower this morning, nothing blue came out. Thank God, because I would have gotten out there. What happens here is that our brain sees something and it translates it into something we understand. And it does so subconsciously. We don't even know that our brain is doing this for us. But it's a good thing our brain does this, because it helps us survive in this world. However, it can also create bias. A research that shows this subconscious bias perfectly is research done by Golden. Once less than 10% of orchestras in the USA consisted of women, and nobody understood why. Now this figure is up to almost 50%. What was the difference? Blind auditions. A screen and a quiet entry, because even the clicking of heels would give the gender away of a female musician, was all it took. It increased by 50% the probability that a woman was advanced or even hired out of a preliminary round. Now, the World Barista Championship is also a judge's game. Baristas are scored with a score sheet. How many of you have seen a barista competition? So that's quite a few. Who has competed in one? I know we've had quite some people here that have done really well in the competition. But I'm guessing not a lot of you, at least not everybody, knows exactly what a barista is scored on. Now, a barista is scored on technical skills, and they're scored on how accurate their taste descriptors are. And this seems pretty gender bias-free, doesn't it? Of course, you could always say there are a few things that might be open to different scores because of performance, but the obvious question mark you could put down on the score sheet is at the end. This is at the end of the score sheet, where judges give scores for presentation professionalism and a total impression, which includes the barista's presence. Presence. Sounds pretty vague, doesn't it? And it can be. After a presentation, judges go off stage and they deliberate the score sheet, exactly for this reason. They deliberate their scores and see if it's fair. However, because this is at the end of the score sheet, usually judges sometimes run out of time to really look at these points, because they're on a strict schedule. They need to go out pretty quickly to judge the next performance. So what do we know? We know, statistically speaking, we should have had a female world barista champion by now. I think we need women to participate. We need them to win. And I think this industry needs a strong female role model in the barista community, because this will increase our link to the consumer, and it will create a more diverse voice on all the influential subjects in our industry. So why haven't we had a female barista champion? Because the World Barista Championship is the ideal means to facilitate a diverse voice, but it hasn't yet. Why? Is it participation level? Or is it the presentation itself? Are they not bringing the team they need to win? Is it the score sheet or the judges? Today, I'm not here to give you answers. I can't. There simply isn't enough data to do this yet. All I can do here today is bring this issue and link to its subjects that I think are relevant. And hopefully today and after this segment of gender, you as well, can bring an industry-wide awareness on this subject. And together, we can bring a leading role to this industry in gender equity. Thank you.